Hello, welcome to Wyvern Minis. I'm going to do a slightly different video today, talking about Dungeons and Dragons, a game that I love playing, whether controlling the action as a dungeon master or taking part in an adventure as a player character. I've got a couple of adventures that I've written up on my blog. I'll include a link down below if you're interested in going to read that. That'd be great. I need to finish writing a couple of them up, but yeah, very much enjoy playing the game. However, with little kids it's quite difficult to find the time for hobbies and playing games. So to overcome that, I got this Dungeons and Dragons game which is aimed at kids. The recommended age is 10 plus, so it's a little bit older than my daughter who's only 4, nearly 5. But I thought I'd give it a go. I can simplify it if necessary, because Dungeons and Dragons is nothing if not adaptable. But as it turns out, she's been able to cope with it very well. So I thought I'd do a little review of the game, a little bit of gameplay, because we played it this afternoon, and hopefully it'll be of interest to you. And it's something I would definitely recommend getting it if you like playing games like this. It's a great little introduction, and I'm sure she'll be rolling up her own characters in no time. So, what's in the box? Well, it's quite nicely laid out, nice artwork, easy little booklet there which contains the rules. It's nothing overly complicated. Nice game boards, we'll come to those a bit later on, but they work really well. We've got the other bits and pieces nicely laid out, the 4 primary bad guys that you're going to fight against, so you can play the adventure multiple times and it comes out a little bit different. Each of these sets of cards is for a different game board, different area that you're fighting through. It has different sort of enemies and things to overcome. And the 4 characters, nice colours. I mean, it's just bright colours to use, so I'm not going to bother painting these. But you've got a colour-coded dice. You just use a D20 for everything, which is nice and simple. You create your character sheets essentially by putting together these little cards. It gives you some options, so you slot them into these trackers which track your health. You all start with 10 health. You've got some choices around what your character can do, what sort of person it is, and different weapons you might be armed with. They're really the same. You can the stats are the same, but it's more about building the story. How does your character overcome the challenges? What do they do during the game? It's all to do with trying to teach the kids how to develop storytelling. And you've got what your character is there, your race, and you can be a male or a female, whatever you fancy. So a nice simple way to put that together, very visual, very tactile, which is good. You've got your gold coins, which is how you determine how your advancements, so you get no XP. The black D10 is for the monsters to attack you, and on each monster card it tells you what they need to roll with a D10. So very simple. The item cards that you can win, things like Baby Owl Bear, which is a nice cute little card to get, or the Giant Toad, which my daughter loves. The simple things to tell you how the game works, little crib sheets, and you've got backpacks as well. And again, this is more to do with storytelling. So each player can choose a different backpack which contains different items, and there are certain cards that tell you to work out what you want to do with the items in your backpack. Ultimately, it all rests on the roll of the dice, but it's, again, just trying to get the kids telling stories, and that's what Dungeons and Dragons is all about, I think. When you come to assemble the board, again, it's a nice little touch. You can assemble the boards in any way you want. Each of the monsters is tied to a specific end zone. So Felbris, the Beholder, he is in Gauntlgrim, and then there's other enemies for the others. You can assemble them, go through the land in any way you want, and you can just position it differently, even put it around almost in a circle, which has no bearing on the game. It just looks nice, and I think it just feels like a really nice thing. It looks like you've got options. It's a bit like some of those RPG games you get on the computer, where it gives you the impression that you've got a choice in what's going on, but you don't really. It's more on rails. What you have is the ability to affect the story that you're telling and how it plays. and I think that's great. It's good fun. So here it is all set up. We playing as a dwarf and an elf, which is what we've played every time so far. We've played the game a few times. I keep saying we could change the characters, but she doesn't want to. She likes being an elf. That's fair enough. Decided we were going to end up in Gauntlegrim. That was her choice. And then starting off in Mount Hotenau, however you say it, which is a volcano, going through Neverwinter Woods, into Neverwinter City itself, and then down into Gauntlegrim to fight the Beholder, Felbris. You've got the choice of the 4 bad guys. You've got the Kraken, you've got a dragon, and you've got a fire giant. At the end of the day, that they all basically do the same thing, but it's a different story depending on what you get. And it's quite clear. It shows you the little symbol on each of the board game tiles, which ties up with the symbol for the baddie. So we chose the Beholder for this, but you can change it and have the dragon. That's what we did the first time round. It's Dungeons and Dragons, so if it's Dungeons and Dragons, you want to fight a dragon. It doesn't matter what location it is. But anyway, this is how we got it set up. We had our elf and dwarf character sheets all set up, ready to go. We're actually playing outside because it's pretty damn hot at the moment. Too hot for sitting inside. So the Beholder gets set up at the end of the 3 zones, the 4 zones that we're going to fight through. And we start right at the beginning. My dwarf, I've chosen Tack Strongheart, I think he's called. There are some slight differences in the special abilities you get depending on what sort of character you are, but the weapons, it doesn't really matter who you are. The weapons do the same sort of damage. You're just running a d20, and it's an easy hit to do 1 damage, or a more difficult hit to do 2 damage. So setting up the other cards here, each of the deck of cards correspond to one of the zones. Again, same as with the big baddies, so they're all themed. Like you've got Ifriti and Hellhounds and things like that associated with the volcano, fiery type things associated with the volcano, and you've got Duergar and more dungeony type monsters associated with Gauntlegrim. But it's not just monsters, there's also encounters, things that you have to roll the dice to see what happens, or come up with a plan of how you're going to deal with the encounter, which again drives that storytelling aspect, which I think is really good for getting the imagination flowing from the kids. Each of the enemies has got minions. 1 minion shows up, 1 minion card shows up at the end of each zone. The Beholder, you start off, you have to fight a little horde of zombies, which by the time we got to the horde of zombies was actually quite easy compared to what we had gone through on that first board. But they're all slightly different. I'm just shuffling the first deck of cards here, and you put them in the nice little deck shoe, and you pull them out from there. There's enough cards in there that you can play this game multiple times and you'll get a different outcome. There's lots of similarities between the different cards, but again, the story is different. The kids enjoy it. So naturally, the daughter decided she wanted to go and try and find a monster. So you've got a choice. You can either stick to the main path and just get on with your quest, or you can go off to the path less well travelled and try and find a monster to fight. And that's her obsession, because that's how you get prizes, but you also might die. And we were surprisingly close to dying with this first monster, a hellhound, just because we rolled terribly. Lots of 1s and 2s and 3s. It was really awful. I actually think this game in general is surprisingly brutal for a kids game. We've managed to get through it when we played it, but it's a bit of a struggle sometimes. You really think you're going to lose. So I've just split things up here just as we're playing through the game. You just roll your d20, you choose what attack you're going to do, roll your d20, see whether it hits or not and how much damage it does to the monster. It's got a nice little way of tracking the damage on the monster cards. You just move the tracker down. Sometimes you might stun the monster and then they can't attack you back, but it's a simple combat system where you take it in turns. One player attacks the monster reciprocates, and then the next player attacks the monster and the monster reciprocates. So it's not as complicated or as involved as regular Dungeons and Dragons by a long shot, which you really don't want it to be to play with kids. Play with my daughter because she is a lot younger than the recommended age. Her reading skills aren't there yet. She can read numbers and some letters, but she can't read the whole cards. So I need to read them for her, but when I tell her what the options are, she chooses what to do, and she did it really well. I was really blown away by how she took to the game, trying to tell a story and trying to decide whether she was going to cast a spell or use a bow or whatever she was going to do. But this Hellhound, it was so unlucky. I kept missing it every single hit and it kept taking me down. You can see our little trackers just at the top of the screen. I'm down to about 4 health there, I think. She's still on about 7. But yeah, I got taken out by this first monster. If we both get taken out during a fight, then that's it, game over. And that's thankfully not happened with her, because I think she'd be quite upset. But yeah, there you go, my dwarf's down, and that means that she had to finish the fight all by herself, which she managed to do. So she kept going. When a character's taken out during a fight, they have to lie there and wait until their mate has managed to save the day, and then you can resurrect yourself by spending gold, which is nice. So she won some gold for defeating the Hellhound and very kindly let me stand back up again, which is a bit of a struggle to get her to do that sometimes, because she just wants to win all the gold for herself and buy herself more items, hopefully getting a giant toad, because that's her favourite. But yeah, it's a nice simple combat system, but you don't want it to be too complicated anyway. Yeah, there's a really nice mechanic where some of the special attacks encourage you to tell a little story about what you're doing, how you're doing the attack, and that extra storytelling element is what it's all about. And she can cope with it really well. It is really good for kids. So she won an item here, as well as a gold which she donated to bring me back to life, which was nice of her. And then we carried on after this combat was eventually finished. It took ages. So this has moved on a bit now. We've gone through Neverwinter Wood, through most of Neverwinter City itself, and we're at the end. We've both leveled up by this point. She donated another gold to me, which is very kind of her. You need 5 gold coins to level up to level 2, and then you start doing quite a lot more damage. We both acquired quite a few items, as you can see, and they work by exhausting them during combat. You flip them over to use them, and you can do, each of those items can be used once per game tile or per zone. So they're very powerful if you can get them. They add additional damage to your attacks, or they heal you up as you attack, or they can prevent damage from the monsters that are attacking you. So they're really handy if you can hold them off until you get to the big boss at the end, as we managed to. They can make you incredibly powerful. So we kind of breezed through this bit by the time we were level 2 and all that. We didn't do quite so many side quests to attack monsters. I managed to convince her that it was a good idea just to crack on with the quest, because we got so many things by that point. Let's just get to the end of it. And I think my character was quite badly damaged yet again. I don't know what was going on there. She was certainly doing better than me this time. But it's luck of the dice. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. So yeah, we did go off to fight a monster there. I used my baby owl bear, which did an extra point of damage and also healed me up for 1, which was quite handy, but I think I lost a bit of health again. It's just a really nice kind of interactive way to play together, and that's what it's all about. Oh, the music I'm playing as well. This is her choice. This music. That's why I'm playing the same song over and over. It's her favourite song of the ones that we recorded in my band with Matt, my partner in crime. He does everything that I don't do. I smack the drums and he plays guitar and bass and sings and everything else, and the song's called Sister Makes. And pretty much every time that we get in the car, my daughter wants to listen to it over and over again, which is quite gratifying, really, that she wants to listen to me, Daddy on the drums. So that's nice. And playing Dungeons and Dragons with her is really nice. So I'm definitely looking forward to when she can play a full-on campaign, but that's going to be quite a few years away yet. So we got through the last couple of encounters, and we're just getting up to fighting the Beholder himself, and all the characters, the big monsters, the big bad four at the end, they've got 20 health, so you need to give them a lot of damage to be able to take them out. Fortunately, I think I started off by rolling a critical hit, get a 20, which does an extra point of damage. Used up one of my items, does an extra couple of damage, so I think it was 6 damage straight off the bat. It managed to take one of my health off in return, so I didn't bother using my other item to protect that. I just took it on the chin. And then yeah, she rolled quite nicely as well, managed to use one of her items to do 5 damage. So after the utter trouncing we got at the hands of the Hellhound at the very first encounter of the game, in 2 attacks we'd taken off half of the Beholder's health. So that's the swings and roundabouts of the game, and I think it's probably quite a good thing for kids to try and learn that. Sometimes things go your way and sometimes they don't. Sometimes the dice are kind, and sometimes you get a Hellhound that won't die and just rips you to shreds. But I think we were probably quite close to quitting at the beginning of the game because we'd got such a pounding, but I'm glad we didn't, and we carried on and finished it, because it was a very satisfying conclusion. And that's it. Beholder was defeated. We've won the treasure, won the day. We're the heroes. It's a great little game. I can't recommend it enough. If you've got kids and you like D&D, you should definitely get this game and play it. Alright, cheers.